the spirit didn't cause Raskolnikov to get the axe and to kill her. The spirit of evil was there trying to rationalize Raskolnikov to kill those people. That is where the spirit was most prominent, in that state of confusion. That is where he was. That is where the evil is. Not in the act of killing it itself. It was there in the manifestation of it. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be making a video about a book that I've recently read. I have some quotes written down on a notepad. Every time I like to read, I read a lot. I like to really synthesize and write down whatever it is I'm consuming, and I'll share it. I'll post screenshots. I'll ask others what they think about it, and it's kind of it's a collaborative process anytime I read something of importance. And this book I just recently read is the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It's a classic. I can't believe I just got my hands on it. It's a book that a lot of people have recommended I read, and a really popular author. He's a author of the famous novel Narnia, and it was a really great book. It struck chords to things that are essential to my work, or whatever you want to label it as, things that I center my content around, my ideas, my interests. And a central theme to the book, The Well-Rounded Fool, that I'm working on right now, an exploration of atrocity. So everything just fitted, and I felt as if it was appropriate that I make this video and share these quotes from this book, so we can have a deeper understanding, so I can have a deeper understanding of the questions and that I'm trying to figure out. So to start off, let's get right to it. C.S. Lewis, phenomenal novelist, phenomenal person, phenomenal theologian. He was I believe he was a UK man, a British man, Irish man. He was one of the Christian apologists during the 20th century. And he is an author of, obviously, the Screwtapes, Mere Christianity. I have his book sitting here. I can't pull it up because it's propped up on here. The novel I recently stated was Narnia. He was the professor, theologian, and Christian apologist. He didn't actually morph into Christianity. He was an atheist up until his 20s. And he didn't actually convert to the Christian faith up until after he was 20. And he's a phenomenal person. I like his writing style. It's very different. Someone sent me a message. They said they couldn't get into it. Other people, when I told people on Twitter who I was reading this book, other people said they couldn't get into it. And I understand why, because this book in particular is, the cover fell off, is written, so the idea, so what this book is about, not to give it away, why I'm going to give it away in the video. So this is a spoiler if you haven't read this. This book takes place, and why it's resonated with me so much is because it's around a central theme to what I'm obsessed with, is what is the basis for atrocity? What is the basis for evil? How does it conducted? Why do people do it? What is that proclivity for us to consciously engage in evil, twisted, malevolent things? Why do people do that? Why is that a necessary part of life? How can we integrate that properly? Why does it occur? What causes someone to not just act on a evil thought, but to articulate it in a sophisticated doctrine, and to publish that, and to share that in an evangelical way with others, and to entice millions, sometimes millions of people with this same ideology. Like, what causes people to do those things? How do people become susceptible to those things? What is the rationality for putting 6 million people in ovens? What is the rationality for holding people captive, for not treating someone else as if they have divinity, as if they have worth? What is the axioms that give rise to those to this? And this book touched on all that in a very unique way, which is why I'm making this video. So the Screwtape Letters, it takes place, these were a series of letters between a demon and a subdemon, and just that off the jump caught my attention, because just that in of itself is brilliant, because it places from the beginning, it puts the reader, it puts the person viewing this in a middle and a neutral position. You're a third party right from the beginning. You're sitting there watching. You're the voyeur in this situation. Screwtape is the senior devil. He's the senior demon. So it takes place as a conversation between, this is a viewpoint from evil. This is evil from the actual evil people. And Screwtape, that's why it's called the Screwtape Letters. He's writing to his senior demon, Woodworm, and Woodworm is the demon who is not demon enough. It's a very interesting idea, because, and you see this play out in the actual world. This is why I'm making this video, so I can jump to the text. I can talk about the particulars within this story, and then I can bounce out and then generalize it and make other examples. And then so I'm going to be doing that throughout this video. You can think of, and this is another basis of my book, you can think of the problem of evil like, okay, so what is that? You can think of evil as the most furthest removed possible from good. So so just for the sake of this exercise, you have good right here. So this is good. This would be God. This would be all things that are good. This would be love, that agapic love. Vervaeke talks about John Vervaeke, had a conversation with him. I'll put a link to that. Brilliant man. You have this agapic love for the sense of being itself. And that agapic love is not in a romantic sense that this is my world and I'm going to impose what I think about it, but is that if I were not here, how would I want this world to be conducted if I was not here? So that agapic love automatically requires you to step outside of your egocentrism. That was a quote from Vervaeke as well. So this is the good side. And you can think of, okay, so we have the law of polarity. There just can't be only good. There has to be, well, what is its counterpart? And its counterpart is evil. Everything that is not good. And the agape is still there. It's the love of everything that's twisted. It is the falling in love with your desires. It's falling in love with your shortcomings. It is the agapic love for the sense of non-being, to use one of the 20th century existentialist terms. Is to fall in love with the sense of non-being. That is what evil is. And it's the culmination of that amongst other people, amongst other groups, and amongst other people who are bent and twisted, and they be in there and they compete, and they form together, and they make songs, and they make music, and they have celebrations, and they worship their idols. It's the same exact thing as what people who are serving the good do. These actions in and of themselves are not what is good or what is evil. It is the intentions. It is what's at the locus of their actions. So that is what evil is. Evil is the culmination of the love of non-being and the conscious awareness of that. So we have these two poles. So where does the demon lie in? So the demon is the representative. He is the personification of what everything non-being is. So that's what you can imagine. That's what a demon is. Someone who is genuinely on the side of destruction. Someone who purposely wants to ruin things. And if you're not naive, it doesn't take much imagination to develop what that person may be. That person may be you. I mean, it may be me. We all have that. We all have a Screwtape inside of us that comes along with that arrogance, that satanic arrogance, who knows how to slither and weed his way through anything. And the question is why? What is your goal? Well, I want to see everything ruined. Some people are like that, and that's not something. People, I'm seeing this constantly. People are not comfortable with using these kind of terms because you sound like a Bible thumping weirdo, but there's nothing but truth. There are people who exist in this world. I mean, explain what Adolf Hitler was. Another popular person who is coming to public consciousness. Explain who Jeffrey Dahmer was. I mean, explain who Marquis de Sade was. Everyone's just so puzzled about. Everyone is so uncomfortable using these words good and evil. Explain what the hell was Marquis de Sade doing if he was not evil? What was he doing? Making mistakes? That man was purposely engaging in the act of evil. He was a representative. He was Screwtape in some literal sense, because he literally wrote novels about the perversions of life. He literally professed that life is to be a slave to your moral impulses. He was a frontier of the libertine movement, of the French libertine movement. That's what he was. What else was he doing? He was writing these things down. He was sharing it. He was spreading the gospel of evil. That's what he was doing. What else is he doing? You can't explain that outside of any other framework. And any other framework you use to describe why someone would gather kids and have sex with nuns and rape them over a Bible in a purposeful, sacrilegious way, and then kill them afterwards. There is no other word to use. Was that a mistake? Was that not good judgment? What other word are you going to use? So people who are not comfortable with using this mode of good and evil, you're just naive. You're making an aesthetic judgment. That's not, and to use any other framework is counterproductive. It just doesn't make any sense to use any other framework. But anyway, so now we have these two poles of what good and evil is. We know the frontiers. The frontiers of good, that would be people who are literally driving towards what is good. And who knows? Maybe that person could be you. Maybe that person is me. Christ would be a great example of someone who was literally on the quest for good and wanted there to be good and nothing bad. Like you can literally think of representatives who can fill these two modes and it's not always now to steelman the critics who oppose the model of good and evil. You can always say, well, and the Solzhenitsyn famous quote, the line of good and evil runs through the hearts of every man. You can say that, well, it's not always so evil. Like his name is it's gonna drive me crazy. What was his name? He just spoke with Jordan Peterson and John Pichel, and he was the author of Madness in Crowds. Douglas Murray. He said, your enemies don't always come with jackboots and swastikas. Well, they're a brilliant quote. It's not always easy to, that guy's good, that guy's evil, he's good, he's evil. It's not always that easy to decipher what column people are in, but it's important to understand that that's not the point, to sit in the middle and to point out who is good and who is evil. It's to understand which mode you are in. That is what it is for. To understand, it's not easy to recognize where other people are at, but perhaps that's not the whole point. Does not lest ye be judged. So how about instead of worrying about if this coworker is good or evil or not, how about you focus on where the hell you are on this plane? Who knows? So I understand it's not always easy to just simply point out who was good and who was evil. But anyway, back to this book. So we have these two planes established. Sorry, I had to went on a tangent there. But it's important to understand, this is the plane that everyone is in. And what Screwtape is writing these letters to his under associate Woodworm. And you can think of Woodworm and Screwtape as the most evil thing possible. He represents everything evil. There is no question. Everything we know now, and we just need to implement our duties and to ruin Earth. That's all we need to do. There's nothing else. We have this totalitarian system that needs no update. You can think of Screwtape as he is the embodiment of evil. He is Satan. You can think of him as that way, because you have to have someone embody that spirit, or else it becomes too amorphous and no one can relate. He embodies that perfect. He embodies that. That's what Screwtape is. In what happens throughout this novel is that Woodworm, he has his client, so he has a soul, so he's attempting to tempt people to come towards the dark side, and throughout this novel he's continuously failing to do so. He's failing to get people. He's failing to get their souls. And Screwtape, and these are quotes that I wrote down. Screwtape is he's kind of like his coach. He's like, oh well, you failed here. Well, remember, tell them to not believe in truth, but to he's trying to pervert Woodworm. Woodworm is not. He doesn't have enough faith in, and it never comes out and says this, but Woodworm, he's not evil enough. He's not actually about that life. He's not evil enough. He doesn't have it in him. He's failing to do this. He is lukewarm. He doesn't know he is in this, and you can see this. This is so prominent in people like, you can look at people like gang members who are, you have that kid who was strayed. He strayed too far. He's kind of lost in life. He has no positive male role model in his life, so he's in desperate looking for that masculinity. And when you have such a gaping hole for that masculine part, you have to look for something so drastically obvious to fill that. And what is the most obvious thing to fill in that gap is gangs. Is to do the most extreme pathological version of masculinity you can possibly think of, to go out and cause trouble. And that's how people get caught up in those things. That's how I got caught up in those things. So you can see that what Screwtape and Woodworm are. They are the constant battle. You can look at this as if you psychologize this, we are Woodworm in such a way, and we always have that spirit that's calling us to, well, you don't really believe in that, or you're not you don't really believe in the good. Why are you even trying to open that Bible? Why are you even trying to be nice to people? They're just gonna backstab you anyway. Screwtape is constantly in Woodworm's ear, trying to make him more evil than he can be. And the reason why Woodworm constantly fails is because he doesn't have it in him. Who knows? Maybe Woodworm actually doesn't want to be there in the first place. It never comes out and says it. That's why this book resonates with me, because it leaves the reader to make interpretations and to think. So that's great that it never came out. And Woodworm never says anything in the whole entire novel. That's another brilliant thing. It never shows what Woodworm was writing to Screwtape. So, maybe you are Woodworm in a way. Maybe that's why. Maybe the reader is Woodworm. And C.S. Lewis wanted you to feel like he wanted you to know what it's like to have the conscious spirit of evil tempting you to stray you away. But throughout this book, I wrote quotes down that perfectly describe what my overall questions are, and why, and what the justifications and the arguments that evil will use, and evil people have used throughout history. So I'll start with this one, if I can find it. And another thing that makes this book so interesting is that every chapter, the chapters are so short, they're like two or three pages, and they're just packed with so much historical, philosophical, and especially psychoanalytic ideas. I have to do my research on Lewis. He had to have had been deeply educated in psychoanalysis, because the way that he describes these ideas are just too similar to how Jung and Freud spoken. But to read this first quote, and I won't read many to keep this video not boring. This is one quote that Screwtape was writing to Woodworm. He said this: "But do remember, the only thing that matters is the..." What in the world? The only thing that matters, I can't even read my own handwriting. The only thing that matters is the extract in which you separate the man from the enemy, God. It does not matter how small the sins are, provided that their cumulative effect is the edge that man away from the light into nothing. Murder is no better than cards, if cards can do the trick. Indeed, the safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft under feet, without sudden movements, without milestones, without signposts. And that one was extremely dark, because we don't think, and this goes back to the initial point, it's not always so easy to know which plane you're occupying. And when he said the safest way to hell is the gradual one, it's that one mistake after that next mistake. It's not, you don't come to this revelation, okay, I'm just going to embrace Satan just one day. It doesn't quite work like that. It's the tiny micro actions. I'm just going to lie this one time, maybe I can just get away with it. Oh, no one saw that, so I'm just going to tuck down under the rug. And this is so on point, because you can think about evil as that which attempts to distort reality, and you have to ask yourself, what's necessary for someone to even think that they can distort reality? Not only just distort reality, but to distort reality and get away with it. Like, what is necessary? What type of hubris is necessary to think such a way? Hubris, arrogance, that snobby intellectual. That's what snobby intellectuals are. You can see those people who are on Twitter and on all social media who superficially advocate on the side of socialism and communistic ideas, and they're Marxists because they have the word Marxist in their bio, so that makes them Marxists. Those people who claim to be on that side, they have such a, and when they interact with you, they're so instrumental, they're so, well, you don't know what you're talking about, well, clearly you've never read Marx, or clearly you haven't done this, and if you knew what you were talking about, you would clearly know that, well, you're so stupid, and you only sound smart to people who are dumb. And they have such this arrogance that is so conniving, is so pathological. You can't even understand why someone like that even bothers to wake up the next day. You have to understand how miserable that person is. How arrogant you have to be to constantly believe that you are right, and you don't have to listen to, and not only that you're right, but you don't have to listen to anyone else. And I mean in a genuine way. Now, if you're having a conversation with someone who is clearly doesn't know what they're talking about, there's There's different shades here, but in a general conversation with someone you don't even know, you have to think about how much arrogance you need to genuinely think that you are smarter than every single person you interact with simply because they share a different opinion than you. So what's needed is that satanic arrogance of intellect. That is what's needed to that is what's necessary to buy into the full doctrine of evil itself. And I've categorized that as the well-rounded fool. I won't go much into what that is. But the well-rounded fool is that. It's the well-roundedness. So I have this intellect, I have this knowledge, I've acquired these facts. And the fool is that the acquisition of facts outside of your moral framework. So you're a fool because you have not properly cultivated those facts in a moralistic manner. You just have a bunch of facts. And this is what those communists and those Marxists who have Marxists in their bio think. They think just because they know facts, just because they can tell you facts, that means that they are morally correct, and it's not true. How, because you know these facts? How come because you can prove this, that this worked? That in no way can demonstrate that is what we should do. That is like the essential the Hume argument, that we cannot derive what we should do from this plethora of facts. Like, just because you can prove to me that this one socialistic policy can have this hypothetical outcome, okay, so that means that we should just drop everything and just do it? Where you're making that jump, that gigantic jump. And if you're arrogant and hubristic, you don't care about that jump, because that jump from the facts to the values is the point. Like, that is the point. I'm going to jump from these facts to the value because, well, I'm me. And if you had any sense, you would listen to me. That is that mindset. That's that well-rounded fullness. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. So the safest road to hell is a gradual one. That's not that big revelation. It's the small micro steps. And every time you peel one of those blocks, I can get away with this. I can just lie here. I can just slither my way out of this situation. You're building that inner screw tape inside of you to fully manifest itself. And then soon you're going to be, who knows, you're going to be acting like a different person with, that's another quote, we won't get there. You're going to be acting differently. You're going to be behaving instrumentally. You're going to be developing sociopathic tendencies to get what you want, because all you know is perversion. All you know is manipulation. All you know is deceit, which is exactly what someone like Justin Trudeau is. You know, you listen, anyone who has a bit of education on deception, on behavior, it doesn't take much to just listen to like one speech or even hear him say one word to know that it's 100% deception. You don't have to be a body language expert to understand that that man is an actor. It doesn't take that much effort to realize that. Every word, every sentence, every gesture, every mannerism, every breath, especially the breaths, the blinking and the looking around. You'll hear someone ask him a question. You know, Justin Trudeau, this happened, and what do you think about this policy? And he'll make dead eye contact with the reporter. And then after the reporter's done talking, he'll take a breath in. He'll start blinking. That's another sign of deception. So the hyper blinking, that breath in, deeper breathing, and then he'll sway back and forth. He'll oscillate between the crowd, not looking at anyone. He's performing. He's literally performing. So it's the gentle steps towards deception, and that was a brilliant quote that C.S. Lewis said. We'll read another one. Let him do anything but act. The more often he feels without acting, the less he will ever be able to act. And in the long run, the less he will be able to feel. This one was really, that one really spoke to me. He said, let him do anything but act. That's getting caught up in that overthinking. Not the action. It's the what Vervaeke talks about, the propositional tyranny. We'll get caught up in these thoughts and thinking that everything is just words, everything is syntax. And sometimes some things exist outside of the mere propositional. And something that, and I've also spoken to P.F. Young, one of my great friends. We have had many conversations. We're having another one soon. He told me he was very propositional. He was very overthinking. And you have to understand that that's another place where evil can manifest itself in confusion. That's what Babel means. The translation of Babel in Hebrew is confusion, and that is kryptonite for evil thinking, for just evil to even exist. Is that confusion? I don't know what to do. Is that paralysis? Is that anxious, pending movements? What should we do? I don't know. I need to make some type of proposition. Well, I can't do this unless I take this, and then I will. It's just that constant proposition. And when you're stuck in that propositional tyranny, as Vervaeke calls it, you're excluding out the other forms of knowing. So another motto Vervaeke has is participatory knowing. So you can think of participatory knowing as not merely that is my wife or that is my friend. That is a proposition. No, those are literally the words that are coming out of my face hole, like he says. That's the proposition. That is my friend. But how do I participate as if that is my friend? Perhaps I will do something for him out of the genuine spirit of my heart. I will share with him. I will pick him up if he needs something. I will take him somewhere. I will go with him. We will hang out. We will talk. We will speak. We will laugh. We will cry. We will eat. We will have fun. We will get mad at each other because we want to see the other person be a better person. We will participate in a way that is not propositional. So you cannot limit the participatory to the propositional. So if you're in a state of anxious anxiety where you don't know where to go, that is a direct symptom of you attempting to restrict the participatory to the propositional. You're trying to propositionalize what is occurring. You're trying to propositionalize God. And this is why I guess why Jordan never answers that question, do you believe in God? Because he believes in that belief is best acted out in a participatory way. So I'm not going to just merely say these words. It's something that you embody. It's something that you just do. You don't have to. It's not a sentence. And when C.S. Lewis said, "Let him do anything but act," the more often he feels without acting, the less he will be able to ever act, and the less he'll be able to feel. It's that constant. Well, I don't feel this way, so I don't know what to do. Then it's that constant over propositionalizing your emotions and over propositionalizing your propositions, and you're excluding that the action. You're excluding doing something. Maybe you don't need to make a statement. You don't need to make a declaration. Perhaps sometimes you just need to get up and just work out. Sometimes people you just want to sit there and you want to make this gigantic manifesto and you want to call everyone and tell them that you're going to do this. But sometimes you just need to get up and just do it. And here, C.S. Lewis is articulating that spirit that wants you to sit there and think and think and think. That is driving you away, by definition, driving you away from that mode of being. Being is a verb. Being is a verb. That's something that you do. And that spirit, that which suppresses being, does not want you to act. It is repressing your actions. And that's brilliant. It was a brilliant quote. Because that is what that is. It is suppressing you from being itself. And the more you suppress that being, the more you become anxious. That's what Paul Tillich talked about in his book, The Courage to Be. You're not accepting that radical acceptance of anxiety. You're not accepting it. And to accept it is to embrace that in spite of his exact words. So that was a brilliant quote. The spirit that pushes you to sit there and think and to propositionalize everything into where everything is just words. How can you act in such a world where everything is just words? That's exactly what's happening right now in culture. Everything is becoming words. Well, I am a woman because I said I am. Well, my identity is X. Sometimes it is the actual, literally that, the letter X. My identity is this. My identity is that. It's like, okay, well, that's fine and dandy, but what are we, okay, so what are you expecting the other 7.8 billion of us to do in relationship to your idea, to your identity you just mustered up 3 seconds ago? Is that going to change within the next 10 seconds? Is that going to change next week? Is it going to change now? Like, how are we going to act in relationship to your proposition? So when everything becomes this proposition, well, I am because I say I am, it's like, okay, well, then everything becomes words. If everything is just words, then why should I value your identity? Why don't you just switch it? If everything is just words and it's not something that is intrinsic to who you are as an actual person. Why does it need a declaration? Why does it need a speech? Why does it need a pronoun? Why does it need all these words? Why does it need all this stuff? Why does it need all this radical acceptance? You can't restrict the participatory to the propositional, because to act and to be in life is a verb. To believe is to act it out with faith. So that was a brilliant quote. Wrap this one up. I'll read one more. I think this one was the best one. I'm going to try to find it. This was a good one. So inveterate, hope I pronounced that word right, is their appetite for heaven, that our best method at this stage of attacking to earth is to make them believe that earth can be brought into heaven at some point in the future date by politics or eugenics or science or psychology or whatnot. Their appetite for heaven is so inovert that our best method, so that would be the evil spirit, is to make them believe that earth can be turned into heaven at some point in the future by politics or eugenics or science or psychology or whatnot. And this quote was this was because Woodworm was one of his clients were hanging out with these new people, with these new, I guess they were intellectuals, and Screwtape was mad because he wasn't tempting his client to become worldly and become earthly like them, because I guess these people were, and doesn't really ever specify. But Screwtape was mad because he wasn't tempting his client enough to become worldly and become of the materialistic. And this quote addresses the probably the biggest problem of our society nowadays is this and what's already plagued society in the past is this idea of this utopian mindset, particularly on people who are more left leaning. This particular the utopian mindset we can eradicate the suffering in the earth to a point where nothing is bad. And there can't be a more potent signal that message is straight from hell itself. That we don't need to have faith. We don't need to make self-correction. We don't need to go back and to refer to these ancient texts. We don't need to look at our forefathers and our forebears who laid the foundation of our society today. We don't need to learn anything from the past. We can wash away with all that. We can have this great reset where we create our own world. We create our new habitable utopia right here, or we can just eradicate everything that is messing everything up, and we can just make everything that's good. That's the Tower of Babel verbatim. It's to dispense with the past and to build our own. It's to build our own thing. It's to replicate heaven. And what made that quote really stand out to me is not only because it articulated that kind of Marxist utopian mindset, but the amount of arrogance that requires when he says that we can do it by politics, or we can do it by eugenics. It's like, that's that Machiavellian by any means necessary. That's what he was hinting at. We can build this heaven on earth we can do it with science, or we can do it with politics. And that is what in and of itself, that is that instrumental means. We're going to get this by any means necessary. Okay, so by how are we going to get this? Are we going to let millions of people starve by promoting this all green, zero emissions policy? I mean, if it just kills, a few million people, so be it. It was worth it. Are we just going to starve these farmers? We're going to tell them that they can't plant any more crops, or we're going to tell them that they can't even have their own land? Well, it was worth it. Like, what are we going to, what are the boundaries here for this utopia? How important, like, what are we not going to do? And the answer is, enemy is necessary. That's the answer. And it's a really dark part of that ideology that I want to bring more attention to. There is nothing standing in the way from bringing the utopia about. There's nothing standing in the way. It is the idea that we can dispense with what is dispensed was worth it for this utopia. We need to delete the past so we can have a perfect hypothetical future. Even if that means destroying what you love, destroying all your hobbies, telling you what you can and can't say, telling you where you can and can't go, telling you where you can live, where you can't live, what you have to wear, what you can't wear, what you have to say, what you have, what you don't, what you can't say, telling you how long you can be out, how long you can be inside your house, telling you how long you can play your video games, by any means necessary. And not only that, you have to buy into that. And if you're not fully committed to this utopia, you get killed. And that's exactly what happened. It's a dark, twisted doctrine that Lewis put his finger on perfectly in this book, in that quote. Not only can we bring this utopia, but we can use these things that everyone loves and we can twist them and we can fool them into thinking that we can get there. It's like, the psychology, this politics stuff you guys like? Well, we can use that to get what we want. It's that, going back to that hubris, we can twist the reality. We can twist this in a way so we can actually get that. It's that arrogance. That's that deceit, that pure deceit. And you see that within life. You see that within people who think that, they're not looking. We can go do that right now. Come on, we can go do it by any means necessary. These are the many actions that's what he said. The safest road to hell is a gradual one. It starts in those little actions. Where else does it start? It starts in those little actions when you think you can get away with that because nobody was looking. You can get away with this because no one noticed. You can slightly lie. You can slightly say this a certain way instrumentally to get towards a certain means. Is Woodworm in the Screwtape Letters. It's us in our ordinary life. It's Raskolnikov in The Crime and Punishment, where you thought you can get away with killing that old woman and her daughter, because everyone hated her anyway. We could just get away with it. When he was going through those months and days of that propositional tyranny and let him do anything but act. So not only was that spirit there, that the spirit didn't cause Raskolnikov to get the axe and to kill her. The spirit of evil was there trying to rationalize Raskolnikov to kill those people. That is where the spirit was most prominent, in that state of confusion. That is where he was. That is where the evil is. Not in the act of killing it itself. It was there in the manifestation of it. And it was there initially to even think about it. As a man thinketh. That is where it was. And I think we have to understand that, especially in culture today. You think you may do this, or, well, what happens when we do this? You guys don't complain when people do it that way. We're getting into this deconstructionist. It's not the actions, you fool. It's the intentions. What are we trying to do here? Things in and of themselves are not. That's Nietzsche. He said there are no moral phenomena. There's only a moral interpretation of that phenomena. So we can sit here and debate if we should medically intervene with kids. We can sit here like fools and debate on how far we should incorporate children with medical intervention. Well, you guys didn't say that when we had this vaccine. You guys didn't say that when they put this particular medicine and they swallowed this particular pill, or they took that particular syringe and inserted that particular medicine in their arm. You guys didn't say anything then. We can sit there and act like idiots and talk about the motor actions, or we can act like we have some sense and say, yeah, because obviously in that context it was different. Obviously in this situation it was different. There was different motives. There were different presuppositions underneath. There were different driving forces. This was because we were genuinely trying to solve a certain problem then. And what evil does, it tries to replicate that model, spin it around and show you, well, you didn't have a problem there. But what about this? Well, what about that? The spirit that rationalizes tries to conform the participatory to the propositional is by definition that evil spirit. That is what it is. It is the acquisition of knowledge outside of a moral framework. And that is the question. That is the axis of my wonders, of my work, everything I do, everything I talk about. In this book, and these quotes articulated it perfectly. That was it. I didn't think it was going to be this long. But I highly recommend you read this book, The Screwtape Letters. The cover fell off because it's a really old book. Highly recommend you read it. It spoke to me a lot. It covers these questions of good and evil, but from the evil's perspective. So that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll leave a link to all of the things that I referenced. I'll try to in the description. And highly recommend you read this book. Not just to read the book for its own sake, but to put yourself in Woodworm's place and think about being Screwtape. And think that, place yourself inside. Don't just read the words. Don't just read the propositions. Participate in the book in a preaxial sense. Read to be moved, not just to read the words. So thank you for watching, and God bless.